Good afternoon. My name is Marian Dobbins, and I am an intern with George Mason University Folk Life Department. And we are here at the office of the Honorable Congressman Gerald Connolly, his Prince William County District office. It is April 12th. The time is 2:25, and we are honored to be here to interview Mr. Porter, whose family has been long-standing within the Dumfries and Manassas, Prince William County area, and the legacy is great, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. Want to just let you know, Mr. Porter, we're so thankful for you being here, and on behalf of the Congressman, your information will be stored along with other interviews that we've done at the Library of Congress, at George Mason's archives, also the libraries of Prince William County and Fairfax County. We want to thank you again for coming out this Saturday afternoon and just spending some time with us and telling us about your family and your family's legacy. So you ready to get started?
I'm ready, and thank you so very much. I'm honored to participate.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Porter, let's start with you giving us your first name or your full name and your date of birth.
Okay. My name is Curtis O. Porter, and I was born on November 11th, 1956.
And where were you born?
I was born in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
And after you were born, you came up this way, or?
That's right. Back in the 50s, most of the African Americans on the eastern end of Prince William County were either born in Alexandria, Washington, D.C., or Fredericksburg. My parents chose to have me at Mary Washington Hospital in Fredericksburg, but they were residents of Dumfries.
So did your mother and father, were they born in Dumfries?
My dad was born in Dumfries. My mother was born in Thomasville, North Carolina.
And so what was the year that your dad was born?
My dad was born in 1925.
And he grew up in the Dumfries area?
He grew up in the Dumfries area.
Let's talk a little bit about his occupation and education level. What kind of things did he do?
Sure. Education-wise, like so many African Americans in Northern Virginia, he attended the Manassas Regional and Industrial School, which was the school for African Americans serving Prince William County and into Fairfax and other places in Northern Virginia, and even out towards the Warrenton area. Professionally, he had a variety of jobs, including as a service station manager. He had a couple of businesses that he had started himself, a car wash in Quantico, and he had a cab company, his own cab, when I was an infant. But ultimately, he retired from the federal government at the U.S. Geological Survey at the U.S. Department of Interior.
And how about your mom?
My mom was a educator. She taught in the Prince William County schools for about 38 years. Her first job was with the King George County public schools. And then she met my dad and moved to Prince William County.
Let's talk a little bit about her legacy as a teacher. She was part of the desegregation of the Prince William County school systems?
Yes, she has quite a legacy as far as education. I think I shared earlier that she had started her career in King George County. And when she started teaching in King George County, it was about the time that the NAACP was challenging the court cases on separate but equal. The school system in King George County had two schools, one white, one black, and obviously at that point in time they were not equal. The NAACP at that time chose to challenge that before the court, and basically said that if you don't build us a new school, we will integrate the white school in King George. This is back in the 40s. And obviously King George County came up with the money to build the new school, which is now, I think, is still their headquarters for their school board. But my mother was a young teacher at that time, and was very active with the NAACP in that process. She met my dad, married, and moved to Dumfries, and taught in Prince William County public schools. And when Prince William County public schools integrated, the first wave of teachers, we called them the Courageous Four at this time. They were integrated on a voluntary test basis. She was not in that first wave, but came in the second wave of teachers in the 60s. to teach in the Prince William County Public Schools when the schools were completely integrated.
Which school did she first teach at? Do you remember?
She taught at Marsteller High School, Junior High School in Manassas. I think one of the interesting things about that is that my family had been very engaged publicly in civil rights in the county, and I recall her and my dad talking about the first day of school. The principal summoned her to the office and basically said, "Mrs. Porter, I was expecting that you would come to meet with me prior to the school, opening." And of course, she and my dad had talked about that before, and she responded to him that she was under contract to Prince William County Schools. She was a veteran teacher, and she didn't see a need to report any earlier than her due date, and she was there for her due date.
That's a great story. Well, let's talk about your family a little bit further, going back maybe to slavery. Do you have any stories about that, your family's legacy in Dumfries?
It's a real interesting family legacy, and to be quite honest with you, one that I am very, very proud of. We are able to trace our family back over 220, 230 some years in Prince William County, and specifically in the Dumfries community. It's real interesting in that Dumfries was a community that had a substantial black population in an area called Batestown. And Batestown really was a community that was made up of freed slaves. Now, my great-great-grandmother was a slave who earned her freedom or was freed. One of the interesting parts about her was that she learned to read. So she was quite, self-sufficient and was able to teach other African Americans as well as white citizens in Dumfries how to read. She also had a little store, and through the oral history, I was told that with her store, she would go to Alexandria to pick up her supplies, which was a major area then, and bring them back to Dumfries for the Batestown community.
That's amazing. So Dumfries possibly did have enslaved people during that time period.
Yes, Dumfries did have enslaved people. We believe that that she was, or at least, and this is from my dad and his mother's side of the family, that they really probably came off of the Graham plantation at that point. So that's the belief. But again, once freed, there was an area in Batestown, which is now Mine Road, off of Mine Road, where there was a village of African Americans who were free prior to the Civil War.
So now we know, or you've told me earlier, that your relatives owned a lot of land. Can you talk about, did your dad own land? And if he did, where that land was? And I think there was some land that was taken for Prince William Park.
That's right. Yes, as I shared with the Batestown community, free black people own land up in Batestown, which is now, again, Mine Road. My grandparents' land is still in the family, and obviously one of my aunts is responsible for taking care of the taxes with that. And I think from my dad talking about his quote-unquote home place, that they had about 5 acres back off of a Mine Road that is still, owned by the family. So, my grandparents were owners of land. My great-great-grandparents were. My dad purchased his land with this first house off of Mine Road, where I was born and raised up until about the age of 6, and obviously have been landowners ever since.
Well, Mr. Porter, let's talk about after age 6. Then you moved to Manassas?
That's correct.
Let's talk about life in Manassas during segregation. What was that like?
Well, in thinking about the segregation era, of course, I was born in 1956, 1 year after Brown versus the Board of Education. And when I was thinking about growing up in the city of Manassas, it was really a good place, to grow up. 3 primary streets. There were African American families lived. Douglas Street and Liberty Street, and Prince William Street was the other neighborhood. But at that point in time, it was a period of time when we were about ready to integrate the schools. Schools integrated when I was in the third grade. That was that test year, and my parents sent me to Bennett Elementary School, which is now the old building that's next to the Manassas Courthouse. I attended that school. And then in fourth grade, the school system's completely integrated. And I went to what is now Baldwin Elementary School, which is in the city of Manassas. But growing up in Manassas in the 60s, I don't recall places really being segregated where I could not go. I thought it was a great town to grow up in. I remember, as I reflect now, which was probably somewhat unusual, that our baseball teams, the Greater Manassas Little League baseball team, was fully integrated. This was back in the 60s. So I don't recall things being segregated in the city. I do recall early on, 3 African American women who played a critical role in working with the Chamber of Commerce to integrate the city, but I don't recall not being able to go anywhere in the city of Manassas growing up as a
Tell
kid.
us that story about those 3 courageous women.
Sure.